Hi everyone! I wanted to show you what I brought with me on my backpacking trip in the Grand Canyon. So we did a total of 5 days, 4 nights in the Grand Canyon, and we got out of the Grand Canyon yesterday. So most of everything in my pack is what I actually took into the canyon. We did car camp last night, so a few things got rearranged and out of order, but most of it's still in the same order as it was before. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to go through and show you what I brought along with me on a 5-day backpacking trip in the Grand Canyon. So you'll see in the pictures of me in the canyon, I was carrying this backpack. It's just a simple, cheap Nebo backpack that I got one year for Christmas a long time ago. Man, this thing must be like over 10 years old or something. And I set it on some hard rocks. Not hard. I set it on some sharp rocks during this trip and got some holes at the bottom. So I actually had to do some patches throughout this trip. But overall, I would say for this cheap little backpack, I'm pretty impressed. It doesn't have any frame to it, so that was very noticeable, and it doesn't sit super well on the hips for my size. So that was also noticeable, but I kept my pack fairly light, I think. I never had an opportunity to weigh it, so I don't know. So on the outsides here, let me show you what I brought. So on the outside of the pack, I have a pocket on each side, and so I brought a 1 liter bottle, and I put one of these, I can get in now, on each side. And I actually have it set up so I can kind of latch it in there, like so. So that worked really well for keeping it in, and I have it, I think, in the pack now. I also had a pair of water sandals that I brought. I wasn't sure if we were going to be crossing many streams, and I wanted to have sandals to have at camp so I didn't have to wear my tennis shoes all the time. The other thing I kept in the side pocket near the end was a map of the Grand Canyon, because we wanted a sense of how far we had gone, and it was kind of encouraging to see the distances we'd gone and figure out the terrain around us. The temples, the buttes, which creek was which wash was which, that kind of stuff. So I also had this kind of stuffed back in here for part of the trip. Otherwise, I had it in my pack when I wasn't using it. So I don't think I have it in here anymore, but in addition to the 2 1-liter bottles of water, I also had just one of these cheap 1.5 liters of water, and I kept it in the bag kind of near the bottom to add some weight near the bottom instead of having the weight near the top. I didn't really anticipate I would need the water, but there were a few days we knew when we got into camp we might need it, and so I wanted to have that extra water just in case. The other thing is I carried a little bottle with me on the waist pouch. So this wraps around me. I just took a very simple koozie and some Velcro and just basically Velcroed it onto here, so I can easily remove this whenever I want, and I could just set a water bottle in the koozie and carry it right in front of me at all times. And so that was just a little, just shy of half a liter of water. I ended up using it for flavored water, so we had some like noon flavor drops that you can add. We had a caffeine version, we had a vitamin version, and then we also had just some salt stuff, so I could add those in here. Other thing I ended up adding on the outside is this little doodad, which is a combination of a whistle, a thermometer, and a compass. I don't know if I really need it. Oh, and there's one more piece to it. There's also a magnifying glass. So I did check it frequently for the temperature. And it broke the kind of the first layer there is kind of broken, it's just plastic, but I can still read the temperature there. So this thing I kind of liked. It gave us an idea, but didn't really need it. But I did use it, at least the temperature reading part. And I thought the whistle might be handy if we were ever lost from one another. there were 3 of us all together on this trip. So if I needed to let someone know where I was, or if we were trying to figure out which direction was which, I thought it might be kind of handy to have a compass or a whistle, but not really expecting to use it anyways. So that's everything on the outside of the pack that I have now. But when I was in the canyon, I had one more thing. I have these loops at the top. So at the top here, I was carrying our foam mats. So I carried 2 foam mats, one for me, one for another person in the group. We decided to bring a foam mat and an air pad because we've had where the air pads will pop on rocks and whatnot. And so we wanted to add not only an extra layer of protection for us in sleeping, make it more comfortable, we didn't want those air pads to pop. And we felt these were light enough and easy enough to just stick on top here that we were definitely willing to just go ahead and attach them. So let's go ahead and look inside the pack. The pack is completely different from how I had it on the trail, except for this first part. I kept my sleeping bag up here at the top because it fits so nicely. And that was the only way I could get it in there. So here is my sleeping bag. I don't think I ever got a picture of it while I was actually in camp that I remember. But it is a down, I should probably put the details in the description below, but it's just an REI down sleeping bag that's good down to 30 degrees, and it's a quilt. This is my first quilt. I tested this on a few short camping trips before our trip to the Grand Canyon, and I would say overall I was pretty happy with it. Honestly, the temperature, I don't think ever got below maybe 45 degrees, and so this was way more than enough. I started getting hot, which, it being a quilt, made it nicer because I could just stick hands and feet outside of the quilt and help myself cool down when I was overheating. This is not the original bag. This is a Sea to Summit 8-liter bag. I actually have the original bag for this in here, and I'm using it for something else. But just for ease of use, I decided it's easier to stuff it in here than that little tiny thing. So that's what I did. And this is designed to be a compression bag. So it just means you can roll it up, and if you push, you can compress the air out of it. And so, in theory, you can continue packing it down a lot smaller. So that's another reason I went with this bag. So I thought I can start a little bit bigger and compress down to kind of make it fit where I needed to, such as under here. So usually what I had next on top, which I have now taken out, was food, so snack foods. So we brought things like nuts and some fruit snacks, and I don't remember what else we had in there. I had some little olive pouches, these little tiny cute packs of olives. So just random different snacks I had. So I had a Ziploc bag full of snacks at the top that was fairly easy access. I also kept a separate Ziploc bag for lunches. So I tended to eat for lunch. I had little packets of peanut butter and tortillas. So I would just eat peanut butter and honey and tortillas for lunch. And my partner ate salmon and sometimes tortillas and sometimes Triscuits. We had some Triscuits along as well, and wheat thins. So then I have my cooking kit near the top because that's where it fit best. It's kind of lighter, so I wanted the lighter stuff near the top. So we ended up bringing this little pot. And in here is our little tiny stove. We got this as a present one year. So there's our cute little stove. And then we have a fuel canister. We ended up bringing 2 fuel canisters. We brought a little tiny fuel canister that's about 100 milliliters, and it fits perfectly in this thing. doesn't fit in there perfectly when this is in there at the same time. And honestly, for 5 days with the amount of heating we did, we still haven't run out of fuel. So that kind of surprised us. I think we generally made coffee in the morning. I know there was at least one, maybe 2 mornings in which we didn't, but on the 6th morning we made coffee, so interesting. This I called my kitchen bag. So whenever we were in camp, and we were just trying to keep things organized, we'd throw everything in the kitchen bag, except my TOAKS pot, because it made it easier for packing if I kept it separate. So we brought a second pot because there were 3 of us, and I wasn't sure if we were going to want to be doing food and drinks, because we were going to double this as a mug if we wanted to do a mug. In reality, we probably could have gotten away with just bringing this, but it did make things a lot easier to boil soups and whatnot in here. A lid that can double as a frying pan and a pot. And I don't know the size of this at all. So I tended to keep all the other kitchen things in here, and I didn't keep in the TOAKS. Take that out a second. There are 3 of us, so we've got just these really, really cheap bowls from Walmart, and probably will never use these again for backpacking because they do not clean well. But they're really cheap, so we figured for this, and they're really light, that we would bring 3 of them. But this one stayed the cleanest, amazingly enough. The rest are filthy dirty. I brought a handkerchief just to make it easier, so if things were wet, we could wipe it out, or kind of use as in a pot holder, just different reasons like that. Also kind of protect the insides of the pots against other things. We did end up using this. It's a little 1-cup measuring cup, but I got it with the intention of using it as just kind of another mug. So if we're going to be using the pot and our other little mug, then I got one little more mug. I got the hot lips for it. We actually got 2 hot lips. One we can use on the titanium mug, and one we can use here. And so we ended up doing that one of the nights where we used this little guy and those guys. So it came in handy once. Our stove comes with a lighter attached to it, so we didn't really need a lighter, but we brought one. We got a little bit of hand soap. We generally try not to use any of this, but we did just got a little tiny bottle and added our own hand soap, because camp soaps are so huge for what we needed. This is just a little tiny thing. So I also brought, so this was for 2 of us. I brought 2 forks and a spoon. I wasn't sure if at any time we would both need a fork and a spoon, so I decided, heck, I'll have one extra of one of them. And we definitely would need a stirring device, so I got a long spoon. And this is just normal spoons from our kitchen, so nothing special here. The 3rd person in our party, he had a titanium fork that he used for everything. And then in here I have just a little scrub brush, and I guess we never ended up using it. We just used sand instead to help scrub out stuff, and that worked pretty well. So in the future, if you know you're going to have sand around, that works really well. I got a couple little extra coffees left over. Generally I try to keep food out of the kitchen bag. It's supposed to be just the cooking supplies, so it looks like coffee made it in there this morning when we were packing up, since we knew we were not going to be anywhere near animals anymore. Alright, let's see what else is in this backpack. So I didn't leave a lot of food in the pack, but this is one freezer dry meal that I did bring. It's couscous and some like vegetable dry mix that you add. And we honestly brought so much food we didn't end up needing it. I had a little Ziploc bag of toilet paper. Most of the places we went had toilet paper, but 2 of our nights did not. So it was kind of handy to have that just in case. Now, near the back, I tried to keep lows and soft things, and same at the very bottom where it pushed against my back. I kept soft things. So we'll get to those in a moment. But outside of that, I brought these. So these are just simple tin cookie boxes. They're pretty banged up at this point. You can see I called it kitchen. So I put food in here with the idea that you can see I still have a few of our honey packets left. So this is what I had for lunches. And so this was one of our lunch packs that we never went all the way through. So it was honey and salmon. And then there were tortillas, but we ate all the tortillas. And I tried to, in general, keep our higher caloric foods in here. So peanut butter, for example. So if for some reason some animals got into our other food, we had some food left. So I got 2 of them. I decided not to get too many because they're awkward, and I learned if you don't pack it right, it really digs into your back, these corners. So this one is mostly full of trash, so I'm going to be going through it and getting rid of the trash at this point. This thing I tended not to keep in it. I tended to keep it as a little pocket on the outside here where I would keep this. But this is just my toiletry stuff, so I have like my toothbrush, my toothpaste, I have the hand sanitizer here, dental floss, tweezers, nail clippers, those were handy a couple times, lip balm, and a comb. So that's everything that was in. That wasn't everything that was in front, but that was one of the things in front. Well, speaking in front, can't really see it, but I had a carabiner on here. So I used the carabiner once, and then I had this little twist tie, and I sort of used it once for something, but I don't know if I really needed it. I had the option. I thought, who knows, when things might be useful like that. But that makes me think of, let's look at what's in the front. So I tended to keep my flashlight in the front. It's a really heavy flashlight, but for the price, I'm not going to complain too much. And then it has a red light on it that's a separate button from the white light. So I really appreciated that. And then the white light filters through several different settings. So I tried to keep that in the front. It didn't always stay in the front, which I tended to notice that at night when it didn't end up in the front. And I'd always put it back there when I could. This thing I absolutely loved. It's just a Ziploc bag full of my first aid kit. This thing, I don't know what it's called. It's waterproof tape of some sort. It's kind of like a nice soft tape. And I used it to tape my toes when I noticed I started getting blisters, and the back of my ankle when I started getting blisters. I used a lot of Neosporin on my blisters when I noticed they were starting to pop. And amazingly, that kept most of the pain away by doing those 2 things. I also used a strip of this KT tape to help hold these in place when that was difficult. I also had one blister that really was getting to me, and so let's see if I can find it here. I don't think I can. Oh, here it is. So we had some even thicker mole foam padding. So I used that on my big ankle blister near the end. I also got a scratch, a really good scratch that first day, so I had some Band-Aids and put some Neosporin on it, and it seems to be healing up. It's just a little bruised now. Strangely, in my emergency kit, I also ended up with my little battery pack because I wanted to keep that in the front when my battery started getting low. And then we've got other little things in here like aspirin, ibuprofen, some Tylenol. I have a little tiny sewing kit. It's really cute. Didn't end up using it, but I thought if we really needed to sew something or poke something with the needles, we had it just in case. So this is my little emergency kit, and use parts of it. What else have I got in here? Sunscreen. used a lot of it, and I'm still burnt, believe it or not. Look at this arm. It's, well, you can't tell so much, starting to brown up, but it's still really red. But you put this on, this one is SPF 70. It's supposed to be waterproof, water resistant for 80 minutes. So we try to reapply pretty frequently. I don't know if we applied every 80 minutes. I think we failed on that regard. So there's some more painkillers. Fell out. I got our permit in here. This thing was handy. Swiss Army knife. We used the knife on it a few times. We used the tweezers on it a few times because it was so handy. Cute little tweezers. It's got a toothpick on it, which was actually kind of handy when we needed a little tiny thing. For one of our phones got some dust or sand in it, so to help us get it out. I got my charging cable for my phone. I sometimes kept that in my emergency kit. Looks like it fell out. And then I had, let's see here, I have a little bit of fishing wire in there that I used for a short while. And then I have one of these on the front, and then I have one of these in here. It's just a twist tie. So it holds its shape and will stay in place. And then I have 3 bungee cords, which we ended up using all 3 bungee cords for various different reasons. For example, to hold our fly on our tent down. It lost this little hook, so we used this to basically be a hook for us. I ended up packing, I have a little bag that I used on the outside sometimes, and I put food in it, and so I just used the bungee cord to help strap it in around my pack. So we used all 3 bungee cords for various reasons, so that worked out well. I kept pen in here, pencil, but I took them out since then. So I bought a big giant garbage bag. I brought a big giant garbage bag. We brought a couple of them because we knew it was going to rain, and my bag isn't waterproof. And so the intention was we'll just put anything we need to keep kind of dry in the garbage bag. So that's what I ended up doing on a couple of the days. So this would be where I kept my clothes. There's really nothing in here right now, except this is not where I kept them, but these were the sandals that I had. So as part of my sleep system, I kept this kind of near the bottom, along near my back, because it was nice surface to rest against my back. But this is my pad, my air pad for sleeping on, and it's really low R value, really simple. What do they call themselves? Climate, static V, recon. Me and my partner each had carried one, and we really like these. I also brought a little air pillow. That was really comfortable. I'm glad I brought it, and it holds up so tiny. So, and again, I kind of used it alongside this at the bottom, so it made a good back support. So then I had just a basic grocery bag full of clothes, so if I have time I'll go through this separately. Another thing I put at the bottom of my pack is I have the fly to our tent. I did not carry the tent, my partner carried the tent, but let me show you just the bag for the tent real quick. This silly combination of things weighs about 6 pounds, which I think is kind of heavy for a tent, but worked pretty well. So there's our tent that I did not carry. We've got one leftover dehydrated food, kind of the traditional kind. So finally I have what I call my utility bag, my junk drawer. So this was actually the original sleeping bag. And I just had miscellaneous things in it, like a poncho, so if it got super wet, I needed to throw this over me, I could. I have Gorilla tape. I use this a few times on my pack. I have an emergency blanket. I did not carry our water filtration system, but I did bring these iodine tablets as a backup just in case our water filter didn't work. I might have enjoyed these one night, but I didn't get them out. I had some toe warmers and hand warmers in there. Again, if it got down to 32 degrees, I did not want to be cold, especially if it got below 32. And that is all I had in there. I think I wrapped some fishing line around some Tylenol bottles. So that was kind of, in my mind, part of our utility kit. I showed you the iodine pills that I carried, but my partner carried our water system. We got this cute little bag for our dirty water. And then the intention was to maybe use this for back flushing, but we ended up bringing the actual back flusher that came with the system, and we did need to use it, as it turned out. And then here is, we have the Sawyer Mini. So this is what we use to filter our water. And so yeah, the first time we went to use it, no water came out, and we freaked out. So we back flushed it a few times, and then water started coming out again. So we were so happy. We're like, we might have to do the iodine, but in the end we didn't. Would you look at that? My bag is completely empty. So that was basically everything I brought with. There's a few more clothes I didn't show you, and there's definitely some food I didn't show you because I ate it. Thank you for joining me today and letting me show you what I brought on my backpacking trip in the Grand Canyon.